When did you realize your friends were actually fake friends? Story 1. Finding out they have an inner circle group chat, but I'm the only one not in it. Story 2. When my phone got stolen and I lost their phone numbers. Mine stayed the same, but we just never talked again. Story 3. I was invited to the bachelorette party for one of the friends in this group. While at the party, I figured out that I was the only person not invited to the wedding. I had been invited to the party because they needed another person to chip in for expenses. Story 4. One friend stopped replying to my texts right after we graduated from college, like the same week we graduated. So, I was pretty much just a study buddy that they kept close to keep me helping them. Story 5. This was quite a few years ago. My ex and I were really friendly with another couple, did a ton of stuff together. Then they moved, not far, and fairly shortly after my ex and I separated. They hung out with me for a few months, but then stopped calling. A few years later, I ran into both of them at a race, an ultramarathon, and they both pretended like they didn't know me. That was actually a really painful moment. Story 6. Like I suspect for a lot of people, getting divorced was a real eye-opener. I started with a core group of close friends who had all met in our late teens/early 20s, and one of them introduced me to the woman who I would ultimately marry. Well into our 40s, they were what I considered to be my family, but when the divorce happened, things spiraled. My best friend stuck with me, but his wife was the one who orchestrated things in our group, and she was best friends with my ex. I was expecting the two of them to insulate for a while, and I knew it was painful for my ex to be around me, so it was no surprise when I stopped getting invitations to cookouts, etc. But then I noticed that the other members of the group were also avoiding/ignoring me. I'd see on Facebook that one of them came into my town to go to a concert for a band that they knew I liked and hadn't so much as texted. Birthdays rolled around and nobody would call. When my parents both died within a few months of each other, and not a one of them reached out, I knew where I stood. My best friend needs to get credit though. Alone from all of them, he made a consistent effort to stay in touch and see me regularly. He was there when my parents died and through everything else, even though his wife clearly disapproved. I think finally, after this nonsense had been going on for several years, he told her how ridiculous it all seemed, and that entire friend group tried to reconcile. I made it clear right from the start that there was no guarantee that I'd ever find space for them in my life again. This is all very apropos right now because they are having their first big post-COVID party in a couple weeks and I'm invited. People are coming in from all over the country, and the only one I give a shit about seeing is my buddy. Story 7. I threw myself a 19th birthday party while I was an undergrad and invited a small group of friends. I knew it would be a bit awkward because my friends from college had yet to meet my best friend, but I figured if we get along, they'll manage to get along with her, too. The plan was to go out to eat together and then go back to my dorm for the party. My best friend came from an hour away to celebrate with me and brought a present, just something to show she cared. The rest of my friends? When I chose what restaurant I wanted to eat at, they forced me to eat at the restaurant beside it instead, the one where the only thing I like to eat was rice because I'm a pescatarian. They didn't talk to me the entire night and did nothing but mock my best friend and her significant other in the days to follow. They made fun of how they pronounced menu items, accused her boyfriend of being gay and using her as a beard because he tried on one of my hats, talked about how boring my friend was because she didn't have an alt style like them, etc. Then, when we returned to the dorm, they ate desserts, got cake everywhere, and immediately left. They didn't stay for the party. They didn't carry on a conversation with me or try to get to know my best friend. They didn't clean up after themselves. Every single one of them just left immediately after they ate cake. One of them gave me a present, and it was the most narcissistic thing I've ever seen. She drew herself as my favorite characters. She put her face on the bodies of all of my favorite characters and expected me to hang them up in my room and thought she was being benevolent. This was a passive-aggressive attack because she frequently insulted my artwork and wanted to show me how it should be done. My best friend ended up staying until 3 a.m., and we had a wonderful time together exploring buildings on campus and watching crazy YouTube videos. She looked at me and said, "Evelyn, these people are not your friends. You don't deserve to be treated like this." I don't know why they even bothered to come. I am happy to say that not a single one of those friends is still in my life except my bestie. Story 8. Well, I had fake friends all my life. In last year of school, Prepping for competitive exams, they would be on call with me for 3 to 4 hours daily, me helping them with all the revision. Exams over, no calls, nothing in, they started going out with their friends and conveniently forgot me. One called me on Friendship Day 2 months later and wished while hanging out with others. I just said okay, and she asked why I was responding like that, and I said you guys have forgotten me, and she was flabbergasted that I would think that. Cut the call in 2 minutes as she was out socializing and she never called back. In college, had different friend groups over the year, but what I essentially found out by last year is that I was always the last option, and only when they had extra ticket and no one else was coming, and that price would come out of their pocket. Always excited and planned their birthdays, while everyone conveniently forgot mine for 2 consecutive YRS, and that was that. We'll still talk to them if we meet, but only till hi. How's life going? In job now, have friends who only call me when they need a ride for whatever shit, as I am the only one among us with a car. I usually pay for most of the expenses for their surprise birthday parties. Also, if we are sometimes eating out, I'll be the one paying mostly, and they conveniently forget to return money. Last straw is on my birthday. No surprise party, but asking for a party from me. That was the last shit, as on their birthday I am paying, but on my birthday I am also the one paying. But yes, made excuses and didn't give any party. Makes me wonder how I always gets used as a tool person. Like I am giving my 100% in a friendship and others don't bother with even 10%. Seriously, is it branded on my face that I can only be used and they don't need to consider my feelings? Story 9. Accidentally overdosing on a drug and ending up in the hospital. I reached out and messaged those friends that said, "Message me if you need anything." And when I asked them to do something like feed my cat, check the mail, message my family who don't use internet, or just talk to me, the response was, "Let me know if you need anything." It was as though saying that somehow ignored what I was telling them I need. I learned people say this when they don't know what to say or don't want to actually do something. Like, here I am, in a hospital bed, asking you for that help you said I could ask for. I know that I've helped you, but now that I just need this rudimentary help while I'm being treated at the hospital, no one is there, not even family. I've gone out and visited friends, hosted events for them, helped them in many ways, and it can be for years. And yet if I ask to be visited or for help, there's nothing. Sometimes they won't even let me know they can't show up for things like my birthday until hours into the party starting time. Some people just want to piggy bank you, dropping figurative social coins into you so that you show up for them, but they may never show up for you. I've spent years talking to someone wondering what it would take for them to ever fucking visit me, to have them literally show up once in over 5 years of a friendship. I feel like an idiot for having invested so much of myself, time, money, and genuine love to realize they do not want to invest even a fraction in reciprocation. We're friends for life now, some have said to me, and we've shared deep things. But it's always in public chat groups, and we never converse in private. I've learned some people know how to be emphatic and seem really caring, but often it seems all they really care about is a performative friendship. The sing and dance of a friendship, but when you genuinely want to talk and open up about a conflict, to really ask for help to work through something, it's not what they're there for. They're there for the superficial and entertaining, the positive only, and the negative, whatever it may be, is not what they are there for. I don't know anymore what a real friendship is. I'm left really wondering if I'm the problem. The proverb, "If everyone is the problem, then it's you," rings in my head. I must be the problem, because every relationship has similar issues. Lack of genuine connection. If I start to open up and share genuine feelings, it's a burden. And most of the time, I'm just asking to be heard, nothing more, and I really only do this when it feels like it could be accepted. I'm not opening up relationships like this. You have to wait till rapport feels like it's acceptable to be vulnerable and authentic. But even when you do, there's the risk that you're not compatible. Or maybe I'm completely wrong and I have a massive issue I need to address that I'm just not seeing. I've been in therapy for a while, and my consistent issue is that I'm emotionally confused about my own self. Story 10. I think I realized the fake aspect of my old group of friends when life happened to me in a way that didn't fit their narrative, so they blocked me out and continue to do so. Specifically, one of my closer friends whom I was constantly hanging with since 3rd grade and also in a band with. I will never deny my fault in the relationship with him, these people. However, I will also not deny their role in the lack of empathy to situations they can't or don't want to understand. The biggest asteroid of realization came when my current, Only an actual best friend told me recently that friend I was in a band with said verbatim, "He can be your problem, responsibility now." When I was in a psyche ward for a manic, psychotic experience I ended up having several years ago. Now, like, I'm sorry that my mental framework isn't up to your standards, but didn't we confide in each other for no less than a full decade, though? Didn't we develop as friends over several years with tons of common interest? Didn't we have tons of fun playing music? It just doesn't matter because I chose to experiment with drugs and alcohol and you didn't? And my brain is wired in a way that couldn't handle it? I never stole from you. I never hit you. I never intentionally harmed you in any way. And if I did unintentionally, I apologized immediately or as soon as it was made clear to me from someone. When I find out he said that and felt that way, it gave a lot of insight as to how this guy really is for the most part. His nonchalant reflection on our days of being in our old band was always, "Yeah, we sucked," with a very condescending and critical attitude whenever our band got brought up in conversation. At times our group of friends got together for occasions. Like, yeah, but wasn't it fun? Why be so critical and treat it like it was just some stupid ephemeral portion of your life? You probably wouldn't be teaching music to kids now and having a successful new band had we not done what we did. I get that you're into prog metal, but maybe show some enjoyment and nostalgia here and there, dude. I've always had problems with depression, various mental health issues, and so on. So when it really hit me that the choice was, nah, I'm gonna distance rather than, oh shit, is there something I can do to help and understand during times of great stress and difficulty for me, it definitely continues to have long-lasting damage and impact on how I view the world. I hate it so much, majorly due to the fact that rereading this particular paragraph makes me feel like I'm seeking pity or then understand others have flaws too. Like, oh no, care about me. Why don't you care? Me, it just fucking sucks sometimes. Even on the few days off I get from work, this crap rockets into my downtime introspection and cock slaps me. I got into drugs and alcohol pretty bad after a bit, and I suppose that was the deciding factor for all of them. It just didn't fit their narrative. I hold myself accountable for the douchebaggery I put forth in the high school years, for sure, because that type of experimentation among people that don't have that mentality creates dissonance, and I get that to a point. I am trying to learn to circumvent the guilt into positive and constructive means, so maybe that's why I'm here saying this shit. But my real friends stuck around, the only real friend I ever really had among them. I've been sober from drugs and alcohol for almost 4 years now. He supports me even though he's not into the whole sobriety thing. We still chill even though he also has his own life, sort of speak. In many ways I'm grateful for the distorted not friends, because I really think that helped me and my best friend to get stronger. Story 11. Had just been broken up with and was feeling the lowest I'd felt in my life. I started going out with who I thought were my closest friends at the time, and we were getting drunk. This evolved over time to just smoking weed all the time at either my house or another one of the guys' houses. One day we decided to trip together at my house because my mom was out, and they came over. After we had all taken it, one of the guys started being really weird and was hiding from us. We looked all over my house for him, and he texted us to say he'd got his gran to pick him up. Me and the other guys decided to go for a walk. Then when we're passing my house, the guy that said he'd left hops over my fence, and we're all like, WTF. I was getting in my head and feeling like I wanted them all to go. I started to realize that these guys were just using me for my house. I said I'd like them to go cause I'm gonna just stay on my own. They were like, nah man, let's go back to yours, it's fine, and I put my foot down and said no, I'm going back on my own. The guy who was being weird walked past me and was like, fuck you, and I just went home. I called one of my other friends, who is still my friend to this day, and asked if he could come up cause I was having a bit of a hard time on my own. He came up and I felt so much better. Then I got a call from one of the guys that left, and I said to my other friend, I guarantee he's gonna ask if I have weed. I pick up the phone and he's like, hey man, you alright? I'm like, yeah. Then he's like, you got any weed left? I was like, nah man. And it had solidified in my head that these guys were just using me. I stopped talking to those guys for a while. Then I told one of them about how I felt, and he was like, nah man, you're my closest friend. Legit, like 2 weeks later, he was shagging my ex behind my back, and I called him out on it. And he was like waffling about how he felt terrible, etc. I didn't speak to him for over a year. Then he kept messaging me trying to say sorry. I eventually gave in because I was over it. Now that I've forgiven him, he has no interest in talking to me. He's a massive loser anyway, so it's worked out for the best. Trust your instincts on people. Story 12. So during architecture school, I had this friend. We were really close. When we were in different classes, she'd wait for me during lunch hour, or I'd wait for her. We'd do pretty much everything together. Even though she was a devout Christian, she never questioned my atheism or my bisexuality. She had no problem with me, and vice versa. Fast forward a few years. We graduated. We were still very close. Soon, she was getting married. So we were a gang of 5, including me and her, planned this bachelorette party for her. I specifically asked her if she could drink, and if I should bring vodka. She said, "What's a bachelorette party without alcohol?" or something along those lines. I bought a tiny bottle of vodka, and 4 of us shared it, including her. We weren't wasted or anything. Her mother found out because I had posted a story on Instagram about it, and all hell broke loose in the morning. Her mom called me at 7 a.m., screaming her head off, saying I had defiled her daughter and their grandmother's apartment, which is where we held the party, because she wasn't supposed to leave her apartment for some reason, overprotectiveness probably, by bringing alcohol into it, and that I forced my friend to drink when she clearly didn't want to. First of all, I didn't know that she hadn't told her mother about the alcohol. Secondly, I don't mind her lying to her parents. I know parents can be strict, but she's a grown-ass adult. If you can't face the consequences, don't fucking do things. Her mother called me and tried threatening me, saying that she'll call my mother. I'm like, go ahead, lady. You want her number? I'm an adult. Calling my mother was not a threat that would work on me anymore. Later, I came to know that she told her parents that she did not drink. It was just her friends, me and one other girl, that were drinking. I didn't attend her wedding and cut all contact with her. I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. Story 13. When she just kept delaying or canceling our meetups. One time she had a valid excuse, or at least one I didn't blame her for. Her uncle landed in the hospital. But I still wasn't happy about it, because she could have texted me what was going on, rather than 3 hours after we were supposed to meet up. How am I supposed to know what is happening? But excuses just kept piling up, and the one that did it was when I had asked her for a ride to work the next day. She said cool. Even after she had already accepted, I offered to buy her dinner, non-romantically. She was already involved, to sweeten the deal, and she accepted. The next day came, and I heard nothing from her. Tried to confirm half an hour before, tried 10 minutes before, and then I had to scramble to find my own way to work. Uber, Lyft, taxis were all delayed because it was a Saturday night. So I got on one of those rental Lime scooters. The brakes didn't work, so I had to end that ride and start another one, and made it to work 12 minutes late. Even 2 hours into my shift, she still hadn't replied, but I could see she had seen the messages, unfriended her, and blocked her on Facebook. With the exception of her being in a near-fatal accident, there was no excuse strong enough for me to give a shit about her again. The next day, she tried to test me, but I never opened it. Only saw the preview, "I have no excuse," and mouthed "you're damn right" before I blocked her number and deleted the conversation. She earned me my first tardy at that job, ever. Dead to me. Story 14. When I was always congratulating my friends on their achievements and wouldn't ever be acknowledged for my achievements, and I was always expected to sacrifice my relationships and even bail on holidays, anniversaries, etc. for my friends. But then when they got into a relationship, I wouldn't hear from them till it ended. Or if we did hang out, they'd dip out at the drop of a hat for their girlfriend. I lost quite a few really great girlfriends because of that. It happened 4 to 5 times before I said fuck this. Their thing was always saying I was pussy-whipped or a bad friend if I didn't ditch my girlfriends for them. But then they never once made the same sacrifices. I grew up with those friends, 3rd to 4th grade to 23-ish. I did anything and everything for them. Gave them money when they needed it, even give them my clothes, shit, even my last cigarette if they asked, and I never asked or expected anything in return. But the last straw for me was when they started talking shit about me behind my back, and one fun drunk night, one of them flat out said to my face that he hated the thought of me doing better in life than him, and he hated how I always seemed happy and hated how easy it was for me to get girlfriends. Then a few minutes later, he proceeded to message a girl on Facebook that I was dating at the time and told her I was cheating on her and was out with another girl, all while I was sitting in front of him with our other guy friends. I had no idea what he was doing on his phone at that moment. Then he kept trying to tell her and convince her to just cut me off and block me and go meet up with him and stay over at his place. Told her how he'd always liked her and that he'd treat her better and blah blah. He was talking out his ass just because he wanted to fuck her. Well, she ended up calling me first, and the second my phone went off, he gave me the most coldest angry stare I've ever gotten in my life. But anyway, she was crying asking me if I was cheating. I wasn't, so I said, "What are you talking about?" And at this point, my friend got up and said he was going to leave and was trying to leave quickly, but another friend wasn't letting him leave cause he still wanted to kick it. She started telling me he had messaged her, told her I was cheating, then tried getting her to just cut me off without saying anything to me and go to his house to stay the night. And as she was telling me this, I looked over at him and he looked at me so fearful, like he knew what was happening. He got so pale. Trembly voice was telling the other friend he was going to puke and to get out of his way so he could go outside. Well, I dropped my phone. And let me say this first, I'm not a violent person at all unless I get put in a situation where I feel I have no other option. But anyway, I dropped my phone, and for about 3 to 4 seconds that seemed to feel like an eternity, I was standing there cycling through my mind everything and how wrong he had just tried to do me. How betrayed I felt, on top of the comments he had made earlier to me. I was in this weird situation where my brain was telling me to just tell him our friendship is over and I'm cutting him off. But my heart and body felt so sick, like a way worse gut feeling that you get when you find out your girlfriend is cheating. I felt so backstabbed and angry that I lashed out and hit him probably 12 to 13 times. He was trying to cover up, but the third punch I threw was a clean connection on his temple. He was covering his face. His legs gave out and he slumped against the corner of the wall and the front door, making a weird snorting sound. The other punches were while he was already knocked out, and I was just screaming things at him and crying for whatever reason. While hitting him, I was in such emotional, sickly rage, and the 12th or 13th hit, I can't remember the number exactly. It was when I kicked his face, and his head made a hole in the dry wall. Then I backed up, still screaming, shaking, and crying. I was so mad. But then guilt overwhelmed me. I felt horrible immediately after, and I was shaking uncontrollably. The other 3 friends that were there were just standing there, not looking me in the face. They told me to leave, so I grabbed my phone and left. When I got home, I was fully expecting cops to show up saying I killed him or gave him horrible brain trauma or that I was getting assault charges, but he recovered fine apparently. His face got swelled up pretty bad for a while, and I broke 4 teeth when I kicked his face. But I haven't talked to him since or the other friends. I went to anger management a few weeks after it happened, and the way it was explained to me was that outburst I had was a result of shit building and building up inside like a soda bottle under immense pressure, and a bunch of other emotional issues from being taken advantage of, treated like shit, etc. And I was pretty much walking around with it, all buried deep down, and that night mixed with alcohol resulted in a trigger for it, and I lost complete control. Because I grew up with him and trusted him completely, and it hurt like hell, and to be done so dirty, I felt emotions I never want to feel again. So I continue to see and talk to people for anger management. I got into new hobbies I never thought I would, lol, like boxing, hitting heavy bags, lifting weights, etc. And I absolutely love football, and those things help me blow off steam, so now I don't have any sort of built-up emotional issues. I haven't had any problems since. And the thing that sucks above all was my closest friend. The only real friend I ever actually had that was never negative or shitty or deceptive towards me died in a car accident when we were both 20. So yeah, if you ask me, friends are overrated and they'll disappear anyway when either of you get married and have kids. Story 15. I wouldn't say I have fake friends, but I am definitely the periphery friend. The majority of the time, if there isn't enough tickets or space in the car for everyone to go do something, I'm the one who gets cut out. It doesn't bother me much, but I wish they would be more mindful when talking to me about things we have done. Remember when we went to see XXX? Wasn't that fun? Well, no, because I wasn't invited. In those situations, it usually gets awkward, or they say, hey, we would have invited you if we had the tickets, space, etc. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, activate the notification bell, and share a similar story or anything you'd like to say in the comments. See you next time.